Hey everybody, Lieutenant Joe Pangaro here for Hope is Not a Tactic, the School Safety and Security Show. So there's always lots to talk about. There's always more things to consider. I want to thank our sponsors first, blue360media.com. They're my publishers. We'll be going into school stuff pretty soon. I want to thank medicalessentialdiagnostics.com. If you're any kind of a worker in the state of New Jersey that works for state, a county, or local government, you can go to Medical Essential Diagnostics and you can get you and two adults in your home can have a complete medical screening at no cost to you, and you can find out what's wrong so you don't have a problem, right? Get healthy. And Riot Tint. All right, so Riot Tint is a manufacturer of what I call window glazing. Some people call it safety film. It's essential for every place that needs to be safe and secure, but especially our schools. You put it on your doors and window glass, you put it on first floor, second floor, interior windows, all kinds of things to keep people from instantaneously having access to your facility. And Riot Tint has amazing stuff that they have mechanisms that you can get where you push a button and it's connected to the windows and it frosts it over so you can't see in or out. Absolutely amazing. Our sponsors here are all amazing because they are part of the solution, not the problem. So go take a look if you need any of that kind of stuff. So recently I was asked to go and speak to a group of school superintendents and facility managers and other people who keep schools safe and secure. And I did a program for them on understanding what an AHTVRA is. So an AHTVRA is an all hazards threat, vulnerability, and risk assessment. This is essential for you. Now, we've talked about them here before. So if you go back and you look at some of the previous episodes, and make sure you like and subscribe and tell all your friends, because we tell you things here that will help you secure your facilities, right? And we talk about these things, real experiences. So one of the things that we've always had is a threat, vulnerability, and risk assessment. That is of your physical buildings, right? So I can look at your buildings and tell you where you're weak. Where is there a problem with your building? How is it that somebody, if they wanted to get in and hurt you, how could they do it? How do they go about doing it? That's why the Riot Tint stuff is so important, right? So let's think about, Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook changed how we looked at school safety and security because for the first time, we had a killer attack babies, go after little kids, kindergartners, little ones. Normally it was high school and college, then it was high school, college, and middle school, and now it was elementary school. So everyone has to be prepared to survive. And the way that killer got in is he walked up to the school and threw a couple rounds through the glass, and the glass at the front door dropped. Now, it wasn't the front door, but it was the glass right next to it. Hit a couple of rounds on that, it dropped, and he went right in, had access to everybody. So having security film on your front doors, your windows, any of the glass on the first floor prevents somebody from walking up and throwing around or hitting it with a blunt object, dropping the glass and coming in. The Covenant School in Nashville, same thing. The killer went to the side door and they did a lot of things at that school. They had equipment in place. They practiced, and the killer just dropped a couple of rounds right through the glass and had complete access into the building. So we want to make sure we secure our doors and windows, especially at the entrances. So when I look at this, this is not a full product review. I'm going to do that. Part of a program that I do is called Plan and Prepare. And it could be a 1-day, 2-day, 3-day program. I did it for Homeland Security in Pennsylvania about 6 or 7 years ago, and they wanted a 2-day program. So we talked about everything. And one of the things that comes back to me all the time is that people don't know what equipment to buy. And the reason they don't know what equipment to buy is because there are lots and lots of salespeople out there who have great products, excellent things. But the reality is a salesman's going to sell you what they have, right? And I was a school security director and I had people come to see me constantly. And I didn't know if the things they had were worthwhile or not. I had to listen to their pitch and then go through the whole thing. And sometimes that can be daunting, right? So I did part of that program was Homeland Security said, hey, could you please do something on equipment? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about real quick today. I got it listed under two things here: a tech review, a tech review, and a SOC review, SOC, a SOC review. So a tech review means you need to look at the technology that you have in place. And I'll tell you some of the problems that I see. So I see a lot of places, they will have lockdown drills and they do them poorly. They don't do drills of value. Go back and watch that episode, drills of value, right? There's a three-part thing I did on drills, on how to do great drills in your schools, in your facilities to keep everyone safe. But what they have is the glass is not protected, right? So that's technology. Now, the Smart Tin, and I don't say just because they're my sponsor, I found them and sought them out because their product is good. That's why I talk about them. There's lots of companies that make this stuff, but nobody makes it as good as they do. That's all I can say about it. That's why I asked them to come on board here. So when you get your glass covered in this safety film, it prevents immediate entry into your building. You can shoot through it, but you can't knock the glass out instantaneously, right? So call them, take a look at it. That's the first thing you should do. That's what I tell everybody in my assessments. Go through this and make sure your glass is secure from the external threat, someone from outside trying to get in. All right. Then we look at what kind of cameras do you have? Now, lots of schools tell me they have cameras, and there's a controversy. Do you put cameras inside the school or just outside the school? I'm going to tell you, cameras inside the school are just as important as the ones outside. The ones outside can help us see approaching danger as someone's coming towards us. Hopefully our doors are locked, our glass is secure, and we can see somebody coming towards the building and they're going to do something bad. And we can see they have a weapon or they're being aggressive or whatever. All right, so cameras outside help us to see the buses and see the sports fields during the day. So this is where a SOC, S-O-C, is important with your tech review. All right, so a Security Operations Center is what SOC stands for. Many school districts do not have a SOC, a Security Operations Center. What they have is lots of cameras, lots of great cameras all around the place, but there's nobody watching the cameras, right? They're really for evidence later on. After something happens, we can go back and we can look at the cameras and then we see what happened. Well, if you want to consider a position to have in your security is a Security Operations Center where somebody is monitoring those cameras at all times, because that's your set of eyes and ears when somebody's approaching. The other time that it's important to have cameras inside is, God forbid, during an attack, right? During an attack, if somebody's in the building, the internal threat, a student, a teacher, somebody we let in the building, starts to attack us. Now, somebody in that Security Operations Center or in the office, whoever's watching the cameras, can see where that person is and tell the police where the person is. So another controversy that comes up, at some states it's a controversy, others it's not, is the whole idea of privacy in the school. Parents are upset. They don't want the police looking at their children. If they see my kid has a stolen baseball card, they're going to go lock my kid up, so I don't want them looking, right? Cops don't care about any of that stuff. Cops are worried about violence in the school. They're not looking to see if your kid's, if he's got a vape pen with his friend, right? That's bad enough and they shouldn't have it. But the cops don't care about that. They're not peeking in to see your kids with a vape pen or stolen baseball cards. But if the police have the ability during an emergency, say you have some kind of technology that helps you put everybody in lockdown. There are fobs, there are buttons, push buttons on the walls, there are phone apps, there's lots of different things you can use to speed up that notification that you're in danger, that you need help, right? So not every place has school resource officers or police in the building, or security, or armed security. A lot of places do not have that. So what they have to deal with is a teacher or a staff member has to see this danger and then notify the outside world. So you remember, go back again. I tell you, this is how much content we already have here on the channel. Go back and watch the 3 pillars of survival +1, right? We have preparation, we have communication. How do we tell everybody there's a problem? And then notification. How do you call for help? Right? So all of these things come together. If you are planning on what to do, a very good option for you is a person that you hire that watches your cameras all the time. Now, this can get tedious. Imagine that's your job. You're hired to work in the SOC, and you're going to sit there and you watch cameras. Maybe you have 50 cameras. I've been in schools where they got hundreds of cameras, and you're sitting there watching cameras. You're going to get bored, which is going to lead to tedium and then falling asleep or not paying attention or being burned out, whatever. So what I suggest all the time is that you have multiple people in your district that are trained on how to operate the cameras. They can be facilities people, they can be specific security people, whoever, but get a bunch of these people. A lot of times you can get parent volunteers, or you can get people at the lower end of the pay scale, which is a reality. We all have to worry about that. And you have them do 2-hour shifts on the cameras, right? As one district I went to, they had security. And I suggested, they don't have a SOC, but they got all these cameras. I said, find a place in your school building, in your high school or somewhere in the middle of the district, and make an office, a SOC, a security operations center, and have people in there monitoring those cameras. Or if somebody calls for help and you're notified, you can immediately go to those cameras and look. It speeds up the response. So I had them do that. And then they said, well, we hired somebody to watch the cameras. I said, that's okay, but the person's going to get burned out. So what they ended up doing was going, hey, we'll cross-train a bunch of these security personnel, right? They weren't armed security. They were security personnel that they had hired, and they trained each one of them. So they did a 2-hour shift in the SOC. So they weren't burned out. Their eyes weren't watering from watching cameras all day. They weren't paying attention to other things on their phone. They were watching the cameras. They did 2 hours, and then they moved on. So I'm going to suggest that. So when you do your tech review, it's great to have all kinds of cameras and monitors and all kinds of things that you have to see danger. That's great. You should have all that. Having it inside the school is important, and the local police should have access to it during an emergency. Not all the time. They don't need to sit in and look at. The cops don't want to do it anyway, believe me. But you call in an active shooter event or a threat event of some kind, and the police dispatchers can click on those cameras, and all of a sudden now they come in and they can see in the school, they can see where the threat is, they can guide their officers directly to the threat. They're on the second floor, they're in the science wing, they're whatever, and the officers responding can go faster, and the faster they go, time equals life. All right, so when you look over your equipment, look at your cameras. Are they clear? Do you need to upgrade your cameras? Do you need to budget for cameras? There's a lot of grant money out there. Okay, if you reach out to me, joe@pangarotraining.com, joe@pangarotraining.com, I will guide you towards some of the grants that are out there. There are grant companies. There are all kinds of integrators that have access to grants already filled out. You just got to put your stuff on them and send them in. Right? So if you're going to have technology and you're going to have cameras and all of that, you want to have a SOC. It's a worthwhile position to have somebody in. And train. Cameras outside, are they clear picture cameras? Are they modern cameras, right? Or are they analog from back in the day? So you want to take a look at that and make sure you have up-to-date cameras. Put them inside the schools so they can see up and down the hallways and all the different areas of the schools. Even if you leave them off, except for an emergency, hit a button and then those cameras come on. So either your SOC can see where the trouble is, your superintendent, your principal, whatever, or the police can see when there's a danger. All right. So that's what I want to talk about a SOC. It's a good thing to have. And your tech review, go over your tech. We're going to do a big thing on tech coming up. I'm going to do a whole program on all the different kinds of tech. I mean, I have this list of 120 things we look at here in an assessment. And when I get to tech, we usually bring in a specialist with us who knows all about your technology. They can look at your closets, where all your equipment is, and all. They can tell you what to upgrade, what's good, and what you can add on to. So I want to thank you for being here. And remember, we are all in this together. Keeping our schools safe and our kids and staff and visitors safe is not something we can put off. We cannot put it off because it's only minutes away until the next event takes place. So I want to thank you for being here. I'm Lieutenant Joe, and this is Hope is Not a Tactic. And remember our sponsors, do the right thing and subscribe to the show and tell your friends. Thank you.